Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is July 23rd, 2024, and let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? First and foremost, I want to talk about the Black Sea. We have some good news. So, the Ukrainians successfully destroyed the last remaining Russian railway ferry called the Slavyanian today. And if you guys remember, a few months ago, the Ukrainians destroyed the first two, which were the Conroe Trader and the Avangard, if I remember correctly. And so these are really important Russian railway ferries that were carrying railway wagons, armored vehicles, and other containers necessary for its war effort in Crimea and the south of Ukraine. And we know that the Russians have been utilizing these ferries because they want to seek alternative options. They know that the possibility of the Kerch Bridge being brought down and fully destroyed by Ukraine is extremely likely. I can only hope that this year the Ukrainians will successfully achieve this objective, but you know that they're heavily relying on these ferries to have that alternative option available. And by having that alternative option removed completely, the Russians are very much screwed if, and I believe when, the Ukrainians destroy the Kerch Bridge in full. So this is excellent news, and it will further complicate Russian logistics in the next few months. So great successful attack by the Ukrainian forces today in the Black Sea. The other great news is, again, Russia's been hit by massive gas shortages as Ukraine continues to attack the largest Russian oil refineries. And overnight, yesterday, the Ukrainians struck again the Tuapse refinery located by the Black Sea. So this is Russia's largest refinery by the Black Sea, a really important city and refinery and port for the Russians. And this is essentially forcing the Russians to have massive gas shortages because these attacks stop production for several days, if not weeks. And certainly, I believe that Russia will be heading for a very rough economic year next year in 2025. Since Ukraine only started its campaign of drone strikes on Russian energy infrastructure as of this year, I believe that really we're going to start feeling the Russians will start feeling the consequences only next year. And it's really great to see that Ukraine continues to step up, continues with its intensity. I can only hope that perhaps in the future, Ukraine will be given the green light to use NATO weapons, that is, long range missiles, against Russian targets within Russia. But for now, Ukraine has to rely on its own drones, which have been pretty successful and have been pretty destructive. So another great job by the Ukrainian forces in striking some of the largest oil refineries within Russia. And last but not least, guys, this is a very quick video, but I wanted to talk about the latest sociology within Ukraine. And this is really important because we know that the opinions do change. And, when it comes down to society, sometimes they need to ask themselves questions because things are very dynamic, especially when it comes down to war. And so you can see that here, there's been essentially a poll that was conducted amongst a group of Ukrainians, essentially asking them what they would consider a successful peace agreement with Russia. So essentially, I believe it was the same question that was asked over time. You can see that there's a timeline between May of 2022 till May 2024 of this year. You can see that there were two kind of questions that were asked to them. So how would the Ukrainians align themselves when it comes down to these two scenarios here? So you can see that in order to achieve peace and preserve independence as soon as possible, Ukraine can give up some of its territory in orange. And so only 10% of Ukrainians that were asked this potential scenario said that they were in support of it back in May of 2022. And 82% completely opposed it, saying that under no circumstances should Ukraine give up any of its territory. So you can see that, unfortunately, but at the same time, this is the opinion and feelings of the Ukrainian people. This, opinion of achieving peace at a certain cost for Ukraine has increased to 32%. So still, the majority of Ukrainians oppose territorial concessions, but 32% of them now accept them for the sake of peace. However, what is important to note here is that within this 32%, there were two scenarios that were presented to the Ukrainian people, to those respondents. And these two scenarios kind of highlight more details. So the people would indeed accept, giving up some territory right now for the sake of peace, but they would never recognize the territories that were annexed by Russia. And the difference between the package or the scenario 2 and scenario 3 is that here Ukraine would not recognize it, but it will have to become a NATO member and European Union member with clear security guarantees. And in scenario 3, the difference would be just that Ukraine continues to fight for Zaporizhia and Kherson regions, which you guys know I've talked about in the past, but I think that this would be the more realistic scenario, the scenario number 3 for Ukraine, because liberating Luhansk and Donetsk right now is, I believe, impossible with the current help that Ukraine is receiving. Ukraine simply isn't capable at this stage to liberate Donetsk and Luhansk because there's no natural barrier separating those oblasts between essentially Ukraine and Russia. We would have loved to see a massive Atlantic Ocean separating eastern Ukraine and western Russia, but that's not the case. And that border is extremely fluid. The Russians have built massive, very effective and fluid logistical routes between Luhansk, Donetsk, and Russia. But when it comes down to Zaporizhia and Kherson, if the Ukrainians successfully manage to do a successful counteroffensive and push and start driving the Russians away, they have nowhere else to go once they reach the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea, and they will have to eventually withdraw if Ukraine successfully counterattacks in those two areas. So this is why I believe that scenario number 3 is still very realistic. I think Ukraine can achieve it, but it needs a total support from the West, including the United States, to be able to achieve this. And again, why has there been a change of of opinions? I believe that this is partly again due to a lack of a clear strategy by Ukraine and NATO and the West in what is a victory for Ukraine, and always obviously also a lack of certainty with what the future is going to bring to Ukraine. We know that the U.S. election is going to start are going to happen soon in the next few months. China's ambitions as well with Taiwan, as we've seen with Hamas when they attacked on October 7th. Things changed dramatically when that happened, and other internal politics within Ukraine that can really have a huge impact. So the most important thing here, if I was to summarize this latest sociology, is that most Ukrainians still don't agree with giving up Ukrainian territory, and under the current, proposals by Russia, their peace proposals, still the majority of Ukrainians were rejected because what is Russia's proposal, which is really a joke, is that they basically said that we will start talking about peace and start considering a peace agreement with Ukraine if Ukraine gives up all those 4 oblasts, so that is Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. Ukraine never becomes a member of NATO, and Ukraine never becomes a member of the European Union, which is a joke, right? There's absolutely no compromise being given or given by Russia. So it's not a serious proposal by Russia. It's a joke. And so that is the most important thing to highlight here, is that we're still very far away from a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia. And either way, nobody will believe Russia. Whatever is agreed upon on a piece of paper or whatever between Russia and Ukraine, we know that Russia is definitely planning to break that. So we need to always remember this fact. So that's the video for today, guys. Let me know in the comment section which scenario out of these two you believe is the most realistic according to your opinion. Leave me comments in the comment section. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel. This really helps my channel grow. Leave me a like, and I will see you guys in the next one. Slava Ukraini!